Welcome to today's edition of the Rush 24/7 podcast.
My friends, it is so great to be back here. I have been chomping at the bit to get back here. I can't believe it. 30 years behind a golden EIB microphone, and I'm not here when Trump pulls out of the Paris deal. I mean, that's a signature issue for me. Still celebrated it out on the golf course. You should have seen it. Playing with a bunch of clients, business people, and every 10 minutes they're asking me, is Trump pulled out? Is Trump pulled out? I said, no. He's going to, right? I said, I'm not going to believe it till he does it. And then the actual announcement, the speech came, and I'll tell you, I must hit a 400-yard drive after that. Welcome. Great to have you, Rush Limbaugh. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I pounded it. It was fabulous. And then Mrs. Clinton, what was that, 19 different excuses that she had for losing? I mean, my two signature issues, the Clintons and global warming, and I happen to be away on a business trip. But it doesn't matter because I'm back here now, and I'll be able to talk about all that stuff and everything else that's happened since. A telephone number, if you want to be on the program, is 800-282-2882, and the email address, elrushbo@eibnet.us. Okay, oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. This is folks, this is a major anniversary here. And we have got to recognize this. This is D-Day. June 6th, on this day, a bunch of Americans and Brits stormed the northern beaches of France and saved the world. And they were a bunch of young men and kids. And I haven't seen one, there may have been, but I haven't seen one notification of it in the drive-by media today. Granted, it's a long time ago. It's in the 1940s. And granted, it's warfare that we hopefully will not conduct in a similar fashion ever again. But it is crucially important, and that act, the storming of the Normandy beaches, coupled with the Battle of the Bulge, ending the spread of Nazism throughout Europe, saved the world, and it saved the world for freedom. And it was the United States that did it, and it was a bunch of 19 and 20 and 21-year-old people who did it. And there are cemeteries all over France, all over Italy, all over Europe that hold the bodies of American and international heroes who died in that effort. And it's such a different time. I don't even know in American educational history classes how much of D-Day, World War II, all of that is taught versus how much of it is just ignored or looked back on with mockery or insincerity or what have you. But it was one of the most crucially important events in all of human history in terms of the preservation of freedom and liberty and the notion of democracy and things associated with it. And I would be remiss if I did not make mention of this today. Now, look how far we've come. There is a woman in the news today, 25-year-old, by the name of... What? The name is so odd. What is her name? Winner, but it's Secret Winner, Liberty Winner. Reality Winner. How does a 25-year-old woman end up getting a security clearance that would allow her access? This woman is typical of American millennial youth today on the left. She has been totally radicalized. She hates Donald Trump. She hates the Republican Party. She hates conservatives. Where would she become radicalized like this? Well, obviously, wherever she went to school, she was radicalized. But I would maintain that she has been radicalized by American pop culture as well. And she is not the only one. You know, it's fascinating. Did you know, ladies and gentlemen, we found out who she is because she printed apparently some documents from the NSA which showed that the Russians were attempting to get into voter machines in several states. And the Democrats are out having orgasms over this today because they think this proves it. This is it. This is what we have been looking for. Well, the NSA has had this for I don't know how long. Obama has known about this even before he went out in December and said there's no evidence that the Russians ever tried to tamper with voting machines. He said this in December. He said that it wouldn't be possible. This document, or this series of documents that were leaked to The Intercept by Reality Winner, do not say what the drive-by media is reporting. They do not say that the Russians succeeded in hacking voting machines. But it doesn't matter because the left is off and running with this now, as is the drive-by media, as best as can be determined, and it's really in the weeds the more you read this NSA document. Apparently, and I don't know if I even believe this, folks. This is too convenient. This is, it's too pat. It fits an agenda that the left has no evidence for, that they've been pursuing and chasing for nearly a year now. And all of a sudden, when I'm not here, by the way, all of a sudden, when I'm not here, this massive secret documents discovered by some 25-year-old consultant for the NSA, and she printed it out and sent it to The Intercept. Now, The Intercept is a website founded by Glenn Greenwald. Glenn Greenwald is the journalist that coached and covered Snowden, Edward Snowden. Greenwald is in the movie about Snowden. Snowden met with Greenwald before he went to work even for Booz Allen, which in Hawaii, which was the NSA consultant that Snowden worked for. And now this babe was working at a consulting company for the NSA in Augusta, Georgia. She prints out these documents. Let's deal with them for a moment as it's been reported. I just want to reiterate, I'm not sure that at this stage I believe any of this. This is too big a smoking gun, and if this document really contained what it said to contain, we would have heard about it long before now. But let's run with it, nevertheless, according to the hypothetical. The interesting thing, and there are many interesting things about this, I didn't know until I started looking into this that practically every modern printer records metadata that can be easily ascertained if you have easily available computer programs. In every document that a printer prints, there are nearly invisible yellow dots. These yellow dots differ from printer to printer. And if they are detected and analyzed, they can tell anybody the serial number of the printer, the physical location of the printer, and therefore maybe the person that printed the document. This is how she was discovered. Did you know that your printer, you look at a plain white sheet that's got some text on it, did you know there are yellow dots on it? There are. You have to use a couple of computer programs to invert colors, turn the whites to black, and then you have to go to use another program that delineates it further. It's like Photoshop type stuff. And you can see these yellow dots. They're plain as day once they have been translated. They're infinitesimal. You'll never see them looking at a printed document, maybe with a giant magnifying glass, but they're tiny. But they contain information, the way they're arranged, how many of them are solid versus how many of them are not solid, just open circles, and they contain information about the identity of the printer and where the printer is and the serial number. This is how this babe was nabbed. And she now has got a lawyer. I'm sure she's going to... Oh, you want to hear something else, folks? This woman, Reality Winner, has been arrested under the identical statute that James Comey said did not warrant prosecuting Hillary Clinton. It's the identical statute that they have charged her, or going to charge her, whatever, she's under arrest. The same exact statute where James Comey said no reasonable prosecutor would ever go after Hillary Clinton because there is no record of intent. So we have here basically a 25-year-old who speaks 3 different languages in Afghanistan. This is one of the reasons why people think she got the security clearance, but she didn't work for the NSA. She works for a company that is a consultant, just like Snowden did, working for Booz Allen in Honolulu. And she comes across whatever she comes across and sends it to this website, The Intercept, which is associated with Edward Snowden. She didn't send it to any of the drive-by news outlets. It's an indication of how she's been radicalized and who informs her. And you look at these young people and some of this stuff that happened. I paid attention to all of it when I had snatches of time. And looking at the reaction to Trump pulling out of the Paris Accords and the reaction to Hillary Clinton, it's striking to me. I've been trying to figure out how to actually express this. It's worrisome, obviously, but it is striking to me the intense ignorance, bordering on stupidity, that seems to have become mainstreamed on the American left. The ease with which young people have been radicalized with anti-American drivel, and the way they have so eagerly embraced it and glommed onto it. They can't think. They have not been taught to critically think. They have simply been indoctrinated. And I think the people who've done it, college professors, comedians, pop culture people, I don't think, and we'll never ever really know, but I don't believe that they ever really thought that their indoctrination would lead to this degree of insanity and wackoism, stupidity, and ignorance. I think they thought they were creating armies of voters for Democrats, but I don't think that they were intending to create an uncontrollable army of absolute idiots. Now, I could be wrong. Maybe the behavior by these wacko young people on the left is exactly what has been intended. I wouldn't be surprised if that were the case. But I think it's even for the people who propagandized all this and indoctrinated, it may be out of hand. Because I don't think it's now beyond control. There's no way to reach these people. They're just out on a limb. This climate change stuff, listening to what people said about us pulling out, and it's not just young radicals, it's American CEOs are saying some of the stupidest things that they really mean, like, well, this is the end of humanity. Well, Donald Trump has just signed a death warrant for the planet. They're serious. These people actually mean this stuff. They're running around actually believing this stuff when there is no evidence whatsoever. There isn't any man-made climate change. It's not even arguable, and yet it's become religious, which means you can't argue with them. It's their faith, but is absent any common sense. And the thing that really is ironic is they think that everything they believe is rooted in science. They've bastardized science. They've destroyed science. They've politicized and corrupted science. Whatever it is they believe, it isn't science, but they think it is. And the reason this is alarming is normally when young people go off the track, it's been possible to get them back. But these people are too far gone. And now they've become adults. Now they're teachers. Now they're CEOs. They're so far gone, they are beyond capturing and bringing back to the mainstream center. They're gone. They're lost. The problem is they're continuing to manufacture, influence, and create like-minded people among them. I find it also fascinating that they are genuine, uncontrolled radicals, dangerous radicals. Look at Bill Maher uttering the N-word. Nothing happens to him. They engage in bigotry and racism and all the things the left supposedly abhors, and they get away with it. They're not called on the carpet. Well, Kathy Griffin may be a bit of an exception, but there are reasons why. And I'll get into those. I mean, the left will occasionally sacrifice one of their own if they think it's not too big a loss. And let's face it, losing Kathy Griffin doesn't hurt your cause in any way, shape, manner, or form. But they're just so far gone here that even having, the idea of having reasonable conversations with people seems beyond the scope of possibility. And it's not the kind of mindset or thinking, mentality, maturity that can preserve a nation at risk in a dangerous world. We have raised a generation of people who I fear are not capable of defending this country against attacks against it. And I think we're seeing this. You look at what happened, the latest terror attack in London, and who remains the problem? Donald Trump. Donald Trump remains the problem? With terrorists openly, wantonly attacking and murdering people at will, wherever they want to in the world, except where they are not. They are not in Poland. They are not in Slovenia. They are not in Japan. And where they are not, there is no terrorism. Where they have been welcomed and where borders have been eroded, they are present and they are murdering, killing, keep people with impunity wherever they are, and every time it happens, Donald Trump is said to pose the greatest threat to the world, and in fact, it's these people with their heads in the sand. I don't know, but I fear that if something similar to D-Day were necessary to save America, I don't think we have it. I don't think we have a sufficient population that would rally. I think way too many of them would agree with the attackers that we are corrupt and deserve this. I mean, some of the things this reality winner is saying that about the white race and what it means and how it's inexplicable. Nobody's taught this stuff. This kind of guilt and anger has to be infused. Anyway, let me take a break. We're up against it on time. Back here with much more after this. Great to have you back. It was June 6th, 1944, 73 years ago. Allied forces, mainly Americans and Brits, and mostly young kids landed on Omaha Beach, Point du Hoc, and the entire Normandy sector of France to save the free world. And I wonder if something like that was necessary today, we could do it. We had a caller last week who said that the problem with millennials is that they don't see evil in the world. And I objected. They clearly do see evil. They just don't see the evil you and I see. The evil they see is us. The evil that many millennials see is Republicans, white people. This reality winner, babe, being white is terrorism. Who teaches anybody this? Being white is terrorism. Not Islamic Sharia is terrorism. No. Being white is terrorism. Do you know what it was that really set her off? It was the Dakota pipeline. She lost it over that. But she had to have become radicalized really deeply before that issue even came up. But she's gone. She's just totally lost. Her future is meaningless. So much happened while I was away that I really do want to react to and comment on. So what we're going to do is periodically during the program, we're going to hopscotch back in time. And we're going to start here with Al Gore. Now, this is classic. There were two sound bites from Al Gore. Did you see him on Fox News Sunday? Did you any chance? I did not see him. I've got a still shot here. You know what? The guy's starting to look more and more like Rodney Dangerfield. It's uncanny. I have it right here, my formerly nicotine-stained fingers. The guy is looking like Rodney, and of course you might even be able to say they're both in the same business. Getting no respect. Comedians. Except Rodney Dangerfield was naturally funnier. So the first bite we actually have is Al Gore on TMZ. This is last Friday morning. And a correspondent said, what about Trump? What about Trump? What about Trump backing out of the climate accord?
So this is a reckless and indefensible move, but make no mistake about it, if President Trump will not lead this struggle, the American people will. CEOs, civic leaders, mayors, governors, average citizens. We're in the middle of a clean energy revolution now that is unstoppable. We are going to solve the climate crisis no matter what President Trump does.
There isn't one. This is what it all comes down to me. There is not a climate crisis. Even if there were, we are incapable of doing anything about it because we are not powerful enough to cause it. Now, as I mentioned recently, the thing about this as a political issue, not science, that irritates me more than anything is listen to what these people all believe is responsible for not just climate change. Now we are talking about the destruction of the planet. Now, by pulling out of it wasn't meaningless, by pulling out of a near communist doctrine in Paris, the planet will not survive. And there are people who actually run around claiming to say this as though they really believe it. It's asinine. It is embarrassingly infantile. It's dumb. It is stupid. It is ignorant. And yet, in their heart of hearts, they believe it to the point that they're scared to death. Saw a story while I was gone about why Christians and conservatives don't believe in climate change. It was a piece that mocked Christians and conservatives. And the answer was because they believe in God. And if you believe in God, then you believe in creation. And if you believe in God and you believe in a being so powerful as to create not just the earth, but the entire universe, then you must very quickly realize we are but mere specks of sand, incapable of the power the climate change crowd assigns to us. And, of course, they mock that and make fun of it. The thing that bothers me about it, folks, is that, as I say, we've gone beyond climate change, we've gone beyond global warming, and it's now we're destroying the planet. And what do they say is destroying the planet? Progress. If you'll note, the target is advanced lifestyles, advanced standards of living, increased accrual of wealth. They blame the United States as the number one cause and the greatest contributor to the destruction of the planet. And to sit around and blame what human beings are naturally, and I dare say created to do, improve their lives. The quest of humanity since the beginning of time has been a better life. The quest of humanity has been liberty and freedom. The quest of humanity has been to increase standards of living, to live longer, to live healthier. In the United States, we probably have done more to clean the planet and clean the air than any other nation on earth, because we have the freedom and the innovation, the capital, and the wealth to do so. This is what is so ironic. We have probably, without any agreement whatsoever, without any acknowledgement of a disaster looming whatsoever, we, because we desire a better life, have cleaned up our messes better than anybody else in the world. We've cleaned polluted rivers. We've cleaned polluted air. We have done far more than any other nation on earth, and yet we are the target for all of this. It's purely political. But it's asinine here to even think that not signing a piece of paper or by removing a signature from a piece of paper is the death knell of the planet, and yet they really believe it. I'm convinced now this is not just rhetoric. These people really believe it. And they live their lives and vote and do who knows whatever else accordingly. And it's insane. There's nothing sane about what they believe. Here's the next Gore soundbite. This from Fox News Sunday. Chris Wallace actually called him on the carpet for his past climate predictions, which have not come true. We should have been dead 10 years ago, longer than 10, because Al Gore's 10-year prediction of the end of the earth, the end of the country, came and went. There hadn't been any warming in 15 years, and Wallace calls him on all this. And he says his final question, we're 11 years later from when you said we were in a true planetary emergency. Weren't you wrong about that, Mr. Al Gore?
Some of the responses of the last 10 years have helped, but unfortunately and regrettably, a lot of serious damage has been done. Greenland, for example, is losing 1 cubic kilometer of ice every single day. I went down to Miami and saw fish from the ocean swimming in the streets on a sunny day.
He went down to Miami and there are fish swimming in the streets. He went down to Miami just single day last week. He found the fish from the ocean swimming in the streets on a sunny day. Listen to the whole asinine thing again.
Some of the responses of the last 10 years have helped, but unfortunately and regrettably, a lot of serious damage has been done. Greenland, for example, is losing 1 cubic kilometer of ice every single day. I went down to Miami and saw fish from the ocean swimming in the streets on a sunny day. The same thing was true in Honolulu just 2 days ago, just from high tides because of the sea level rise now. We are going to suffer some of these consequences, but we can limit and avoid the most catastrophic consequences if we accelerate the pace of change that's now beginning.
Now, you see how this works. Greenland is being eroded by a cubic kilometer every day. But that's not a question. We can deal with that. And then there are fish on a sunny day swimming in the streets of Miami. Folks, if that were happening, much of Miami that's there wouldn't be there. This is just asinine. And then the same thing in Hawaii, Honolulu 2 days ago from high tides because the sea level rise now. What? The sea level has already risen and gobbled up some of the coastline on Hawaii, Oahu, Maui. Where? Well, he said Honolulu, so it'd be Oahu. Really? You think if this had happened, we would have heard about it? Honolulu's made up a bunch of nutcases like this. You'd believe this stuff, we'd have heard about it. If there were fish swimming in the streets, folks, there wouldn't be a beach. Anyway, this is just simply asinine. And yet even this, Al Gore says, we're going to suffer some of these consequences, but we can limit and avoid the most catastrophic. Tell me, how are we going to lower the sea level in Miami and Honolulu if what Al Gore says is true and the fishies are already swimming in the streets every day? What are we going to do? What can we do? No. Seawalls don't count. Walls, no. What are we going to do to restore the coastline? What are we going to do to make the oceans recede? What are we going to do to stop the rising sea level? There's nothing we can do. So what is he promising people? There's not a single damn thing we could do. If it were happening, just like if it were happening, nothing we can do to stop it. And if it weren't happening, which it isn't, there's nothing we can do to cause it. Let's say Trump gets ticked off at Florida because somebody down there makes him mad and he orders his EPA to raise the sea level enough in Miami to flood the town. What would they do? If you wanted to flood Miami with seawater, let's just leave it at South Beach. Trump would want to destroy. You want to destroy South Beach. You're Donald Trump. You called your EPA guy. I'm mad. They said something mean about me. Keep tweeting. You come up with a plan. I want you to raise the sea level enough that South Beach is underwater, and I want it to happen in a year. What's our EPA guy going to do? What would we do? Somebody tell me what we would do. No, there's nothing we could do. Now, the sea level rise, that wasn't supposed to happen until all of us are dead. See, the key to the predictions of all this crap is that none of us are going to be alive to know whether it's true or not. That's why 50 years, 30 years, 100 years down the road. But now, all of a sudden, we got fish swimming in the streets in Miami and Honolulu. Al Gore said it on Fox News Sunday on Sunday. Well, that means things are really way ahead of schedule. That means the sea levels have already started to rise, and there ought to be houses and backyards underwater in Honolulu. How are we going to stop this? I have friends in Honolulu. Nobody has said a word to me about sea level's rising. You know, we go out there, we watch it every day. It's up another like 2 centimeters. We're measuring it. I can see it happening. We're going to be underwater by the end of next week. I've not heard this. Folks, this is dangerous because these people like Al Gore know this is BS, is the bottom line. He knows it. This is my college professors. Whoever, the comedian, they know this is all crap, but yet they are out there radicalizing people and misinforming people, and they're doing it for their own personal reasons, largely about the acquisition of wealth. It's irresponsible to the max. There is nothing we can do to cause this if it were happening, and therefore nothing we can do to stop it. And yet the debate continues on the premise the left sets up, which is that it's happening. So we end up saying, no, it's not happening. I find myself doing it even here today. The whole thing is insane. I mean, the earth hadn't even warmed in 15 or 20 years. Everything they have said about this has been disproved. Back in just a second. Get started on the phones here in the first hour with Rachel in Bluemont, Virginia. Welcome. Great to have you on the Rush Limbaugh program. Hi.
Hi, Rush. I'm so glad to finally get through to you. I've tried to call so many times.
Glad you made it through. Thank you.
Well, I have a couple points. First of all the cities that want to stick with the Paris Accord, I think it's great if they want to be responsible because they're the big polluters anyway. But are they going to pony up all the money that we're supposed to be sending overseas? Are they going to get together with all these CEOs and ship that money right overseas? I'm just wondering.
You mean the private effort to continue to fund whatever was in the climate change agreement in Paris? These
right. If they're going to stick to certain parts of the accord, are they going to stick to the money part? Are they going to provide the money that our federal government was going to provide?
Well, Michael Bloomberg, the former mayor of New York, said he's going to put in the first, $15 million?
Oh, wow. I'm not sure where he's getting that. Good for him. Maybe he'll stop funding the public.
Well, he's only got like 5 or 10 billion. So, I mean, 15 million is not even 10%, 1% of what the guy's got. It's chump change compared to what he's got.
Well, he's got a lot, but he has a lot of work to do in his own city to take care of his own.
Well, he doesn't run the city anymore. Another idiot is in charge of New York. But look, see, that's another point. The CEO of Apple, all these other people are signing up to join the Paris Agreement, even though we pulled out, even though, I forgot to mention this to you, Al Gore on Sunday, on Fox News Sunday, admitted that the Paris Accords wouldn't mean anything toward reversing climate change. So why are these people, why are these CEOs, somebody said to me, Rush, isn't it great that the private sector is finally getting involved in this rather than the government? This isn't the private sector. CEOs are the Democrat Party. CEOs have become a branch office of the federal government for the most part. It's a big myth that CEOs are private sector capitalists oriented toward policies of limiting government. No. They are in bed with government. That's what they don't like about Trump. They don't want to get in bed with Trump, but they want to get in bed with government. And so since they can't get in bed with Trump, they're going to do the next best thing and pretend what would be happening if Hillary had won in order for whatever psychological need these people have. With a CEO, you never know how much of it is simple marketing because he knows that his idiot customers believe this crap. And so he's got to make it look like his company cares about it in order to get these idiots to keep buying products. Or you don't know how many of these CEOs are actual idiots and actually literally have been propagandized to believe this crap. And crap is what it is. And I can't answer it for you. I think it's individual from CEO to CEO, but it's clear to me that the CEO community is pro-big government, pro-cronyism, and the evidence is their eagerness to do whatever they can to prolong this Paris thing, which, I don't know. Folks, honest, here's the trouble I'm having with so much of this, is that this stuff is literally, it's insane. It's not just that it is wrong. It's not just people of good faith who happen to believe something erroneous. This is far, far worse than I have learned my lesson. These people have been around forever. I remember first 10 years of this program, we used to laugh and crack jokes and make parodies of these people on the theory that nobody would ever believe in it. And yet we grew up to discover that they all believed it, and they got radicalized, and they think Obama and Michelle are the end of the world, and we wonder how it happened overnight. I've talked to so many people. You know, George Bush is president 8 years, then Obama, and it seems like within a week after Obama, we have got the most radical left culture than any of us can ever remember. And people say, when did this happen? It's been happening. You just didn't think anybody was that dumb. You just didn't think anybody, a majority or close to it, was ever actually going to believe this stuff, such as the global warming, climate change, the spotted owl, whatever the causes were. How wrong we were. And now people at the pinnacle of power in corporate America also subscribe to genuine lunacy. It's unnerving in a way. No, the Bill Maher thing, you know my big question about that? It's been my constant question. What was Ben Sass doing on that show? Why do we send people, I know the lure of being on TV. It's so cool to be on HBO. I've never understood it. Well, yes, I do understand it. That's why it frustrates me. Why do we send people on our side to trash shows like that? You people are too easy. You people on the left are just too easy. I laid a gigantic trap, and they all fell for it. A whole bunch of people just fell right into it. Just delectable. Greetings. Welcome back. Great to have you. Rush Limbaugh executing assigned host duties flawlessly here on the Excellence in Broadcasting Network, coming to you from the Limbaugh Institute for Advanced Leftist or Anti-Leftist Studies at 800-282-2882. So Al Gore's out there on Fox News Sunday saying the fish are swimming in the streets in Honolulu. And that means we're losing the sea levels, and the sea levels are rising, and fish are swimming. And I said, this is crazy. It's asinine. He said the same thing about Miami. I said, it isn't happening. If it were happening, we'd hear about it all the time. Coastline would be gone because of people. Mr. Limbaugh, you don't know what you're talking. This is an example of how you lie to your audience. The fish were swimming, and I give this news story. I do, too. And let me tell you about this. I suckle them in, folks. They got. You should see the hateful emails from people who think that I was lying when I said that Al Gore was wrong. The flooding, and that's what it was. It was not rising sea levels. It was flooding. In Hawaii, it happens every year in the spring. It has gone on for years. Whenever there are king tides, which are the high tides that happen in the spring, this year there was a problem with some of the valves that caused some minor flooding and fish in one street. Honolulu has been dealing with this for years. It is a almost regular occurrence every spring due to flooding. And they have spillways and valves and so forth to accommodate it. But in this case, there was a problem with some of the valves, and some of the flooding was not accommodated, and it bled out into the streets. There was some fish in there. From ABC, KITV News in Honolulu. Surprise, king tides bring fish to town streets, posted May 25th. If you've ever driven in Hawaii, you know that flooding is a chronic problem at Ahua Street. But if you take a closer look, you'll see fish. When this street fills up, it's like a pool, and the big rigs drive through the middle and send big waves into my driveway, and all these fish get trapped. Fish and crabs. Yep, fish and crabs, said Joshua Sazer. Anyway, king tide is a colloquial term for an especially high spring tide, such as the one that happened. King tide is not a scientific term. It's used in a scientific context. Use of the term king tide originated in Australia, New Zealand, and other Pacific nations to refer to an especially high tide that occurs a few times a year. But it's common. There's nothing about it that is related to climate change. There's nothing about it that is related to sea levels rising. There's nothing about it having to do with diminished coastlines. And this is what Al Gore did throughout his movie, Earth in the Lurch. Phony, fraudulent picture of polar bears standing on 3 square feet of ice, and the lying statement that their glaciers have melted and they're about to go extinct because there's nowhere for them to stay out of the water where they will drown. He doesn't tell you polar bears can swim 60 miles. He doesn't tell you that it was an ice flow. It was not a glacier melting. He doesn't tell you that polar bears routinely hang around on small areas of ice to cool off. The whole thing was fraudulent. So is this. Something that happens every year. What went wrong this year is they didn't accommodate the flooding that they routinely expect. And some of the flooding overflowed into streets. There were fish in there, but it's a common occurrence. It has nothing to do with climate change. Al Gore knows it. As sure as I can find out, he knows it. And yet, he and the proponents use stuff like this as scare tactics because he knows that 99% of the people who hear about this are not going to ever know the truth. And it's this kind of willful lying and distortion in order to advance a political cause, which is what climate change is, that is just, I don't know. I know you're probably tired of me talking about this, folks, but I'm telling you, everything I oppose about liberalism and leftism is contained in this issue. And that's why it is so important to them. Virtually everything they need to destroy this country is contained in the climate change issue. And if they succeed, they're already succeeding. Look at the number of young people who literally believe now the United States is the focus of evil in the modern world. We're the home of bigotry, the home of racism. We're fast becoming the home of terrorism. We are the home of religious bigotry. We're the home of all these young people growing up in the greatest place there has ever been on earth are being taught to hate it and despise it. And climate change is a political issue to further advance the cause that America is the problem in the world. And that's why I so reject it. And I have to tell you, it bothers me that so many people unwittingly get sucked in. Largely college graduates get sucked into this, which ought to tell you what's happening to them on campus. They're not being taught to think at all. They're just simply being indoctrinated. NSA leaker. This is reality winner. There's nothing about this woman's name that makes sense to me. The reality of what she's done is not a winner. It's a losing proposition. She is a Bernie Sanders supporter. She is a Trump resistor. You know, why obsess over Russian hacks when any idiot can walk into a company working with the NSA and steal any damn secret they want? Why worry about Russia? When somebody like this, a 25-year-old anti-Trumper, anti-American, pro-Bernie Sanders, can get hold of this kind of... Why worry about the Russians hacking anything? We've got our own domestic people hacking and leaking. And now leaking has become politicized. Leaking is a crime. And we're eliminating the criminal aspect to it because the leaks the left likes happen to be leaks against Trump. So we're going to eliminate the fact that there's criminal activity going on here. And we are going to start celebrating leakers as whistleblowers. And I will predict to you that that's the route this babe and her lawyer take, because she is in direct violation of a federal statute written regarding trafficking in classified data and documents. She has been charged under the same statute that James Comey gave Hillary Clinton a pass on. In fact, if you want the numbers, it's Title 18, United States Code, Section 793F, that Hillary Clinton was investigated under, having violated. Comey found that she did violate it. However, Comey said he couldn't find any intent, and therefore no reasonable prosecutor would ever bring such charges. This woman, reality winner, was arrested under Title 18 United States Code, same title, Section 793E. Hillary is with 793F. This is 793E. Here is how it reads. Whoever having unauthorized possession of, access to, or control over any document, writing, code book, signal book, sketch, photograph, photographic negative, blueprint, plan, map, model, instrument, appliance, or note relating to the national defense or information relating to the national defense, which information the possessor has reason to believe could be used to the injury of the United States or to the advantage of any foreign nation, willfully communicates, delivers, transmits, delivers, blah, 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 blah. Goes on to list the crimes involved here. It's exactly what she's been arrested on. The same provision Hillary Clinton was arrested under. Sorry, not arrested. The same statute that Hillary was exonerated against, this woman has been arrested and will be charged. Now, the UK Guardian reports that she's a former Air Force linguist. She speaks 3 different languages spoken in Afghanistan: Pashto, Farsi, and Dari. So it appears that she got her security clearance through the Air Force as a linguist. and then after leaving the Air Force, took a job that required clearance in mid-February of this year. She, having admitted what she did, would seem to have no defense. It's an open and shut case. She stole and disseminated classified data. Now, the Intercept story, this is the Glenn Greenwald website that she mailed this document to. The Intercept story is about how the Russians were spearphishing a company that builds election software. Now, you've seen all day today the left is in an orgasmic fit because they think this is the smoking gun, that this woman has found the document and made it public that shows the Russians were indeed trying to tamper with votes. The actual voting process, for which there is zero evidence, and this document provides zero evidence. Once again, it's a phishing campaign. It's not a hack. That's putting a fine point on it. What the document says is that the Russians or if anybody, whoever was behind this, was trying to find their way into voter registration rolls. If anything, that is what was going on. They were not tampering with votes that had been cast. They were not tampering with votes that had been... In fact, I think all of this is smoke and mirrors. With so much fake news out there, with so many things in the news that have been provably, demonstrably inaccurate and wrong, this is just too convenient. But even if it is true, the only thing the document alleges is that the Russians were attempting to spearfish certain areas and voter registration rolls, not the counting or tabulating or casting of votes in any way, shape, manner, or form. But I get antsy even acknowledging that as a possibility because I think it's all just too pat. Where's this stuff been? Look, there are plenty of people that have had access to this document that hate Trump that could have gotten this out way before today, way before yesterday, whenever this happened. And they could have gotten it out to a website far more mainstream than something called The Intercept. But this keeps all the big guys' fingerprints off of it, so we can't question their motives. All they do is end up reporting this, dotting the I's and crossing the T's to add the so-called credibility to it. I'm suspicious and dubious of all of this. Back to the phones we go. Rush Limbaugh at 800-282-2882. This is Nick in Gilbert, Arizona. Nick, great to have you. How you doing, sir?
Good. Thanks for taking my call, Rush. Big fan.
You bet. Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of get right to the point here. Following the terror attack in London, Trump tweeted out his criticism against the mayor of London for his response, basically saying there was no reason to be alarmed as extra police would be deployed. And then MSNBC's anchor, I don't know if you caught this, Thomas Roberts, speculated that Trump was actually trying to incite a terrorist attack in the U.S. and basically saying, was he trying to provoke something that he can politicize more for his own gain in America? My point was, with that kind of rhetoric kind of increasing from the media that's just kind of lost it, they're getting dangerously close to pushing a conspiracy where if there is a terrorist attack here in the United States, of blaming Trump of a false flag or something of that sort, and saying that basically it would be his own fault of provoking it, and then using that as a justification to do whatever he would do in response to that. So I just want to kind of get your take on that.
Well,
to see how crazy
Thomas Roberts is too stupid to be part of a conspiracy knowingly. He can be duped into being part of one. He's too stupid to be at the outset, the origination point of one. Thomas Roberts is so stupid that he actually believes, this is my point, these people believe this. Now, the smart people on the left will use that for exactly the reason you suggest. that try to bait Trump or bait a terrorism attack. If anybody, the truth is, if anybody's anticipating a terror attack, it'd be the left. So they can then blame Trump for it by doing exactly what you say. This idiot Thomas Roberts says Trump is actually trying to create a terror attack. I didn't think there was anything wrong with him. I thought we're supposed to not criticize terror attacks. Reuters won't even let us use the word terror. I thought that we're not supposed to do anything here because it's a backlash. I thought whenever there's a terror attack, what are we told? We're told it's Trump's fault. We're told to keep a sharp eye on people that they might engage in backlash against Muslims and so forth. Every time there's a terror attack, it is defended. It is watered down. They try to tell us it's not what we think it is. And yet here they are, in the case of Thomas Roberts and others, advocating for one so that they can blame Trump for it. It is they who are actually doing what they are getting ready to accuse Trump of doing. It's not on Trump's mind to create a terror attack in America. If there's one person trying to prevent that, it's Donald Trump. Let me give you... What was that? Go ahead.
I was going to say, absolutely. And what further kind of bothers me is how emboldened these folks get. Like that Reza Aslan of CNN taking to Twitter and calling the president a POS and whatnot. For that they have no sympathy for the actual victims, as they're only animated by their intense and
here's the way you have to look at this. You have to look at all of these events through the following prism. No matter what happens, a terror attack in London, a terror hammer attack at Notre Dame in Paris, whatever it is, if you want to understand the left's reaction to it, you need to be able to put yourself in their shoes and find a way to blame Trump for it and then to use the event to get rid of or discredit Trump, because that's what all of this is about. Whether there's a terror attack anywhere or not, the purpose of it, the way it'll be used is to further delegitimize the Trump presidency by blaming him for it, by blaming his rhetoric, by blaming his travel ban, rather than blaming the actual perps. They will all focus their blame on Trump. Even these dumb, stupid judges on the Fourth Circuit who overturned Trump's travel ban because of what he said during the campaign. And what he said during the campaign made these stupid judges think that Trump wanted to ban all Muslims. It's asinine. It's stupid. It is not what the executive order says. This is pure, unadulterated hate. The Democrats, the left, have become a giant hate group. And, folks, there is no reason in these people. This is pure, 100% corrupt, evil politics, or worse, that governs their thinking, their day-to-day thinking. If they're having an outdoor barbecue, wait, they wouldn't. That's climate change causing. Whatever these people do. It's interesting. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, under their theory, ought to have to disqualify herself from hearing the appeal because Justice Ginsburg has made speeches outside the court in which she has questioned Trump's honesty, credibility, and she has commented on the politics of current events in a way that gives away what she thinks about this. So the same theory these judges say that they are not going to find in Trump's favor because of what he said on a campaign trail, then Ruth Buzzy Ginsburg ought to have to recuse herself from the case for having done exactly what Trump did. In fact, the case for her recusal is far more glaring than anything Trump has done warranting their decision at the Fourth Circuit. July 2016, Judge Ruth Bader Ginsburg was quoted in a CNN interview deriding Trump as a faker. Now, he hadn't been a candidate for very long. This is July of 2016, so Trump had basically announced a month prior. And CNN walks into Judge Ginsburg's chambers to do an interview. And here's what she said of Trump. He's a faker. He's a faker. He has no consistency about him. He says whatever comes into his head at the moment. He really has an ego. How's he gotten away with not turning over his tax returns, huh? The press seems to be very gentle with him on that. At first I thought it was funny. To think that there's a possibility he could be president. And her voice trailed off gloomily, it says here. I think he's gotten so much free publicity, she added. Every other candidate's turned over tax returns and Trump hasn't. Okay. Now, there's no mechanism to recuse a Supreme Court justice. They have to do it on their own. It's the honor system. So there's no way, for example, Al Franken could force her to recuse himself like he did force Sessions to recuse himself from the Russia thing. That's irritating Trump, by the way. It irritates me. It irritated me when it happened. What the hell was that about? Why does our side constantly cave? It's like the Politico. I'm sure they got the idea from you seen the Political story here today. Real resistance to Trump, the GOP Congress. I got to stop. The Political, by the way, is where the Republican establishment goes to plant its seeds. I have pointed this out for years. If you want to find out what the Republican establishment is really thinking or what they want leaked, you read about them in the Politico, and you'll find out. This has a picture of Richard Burr, senator from North Carolina. And this story, you ready for this? This story promotes the Republicans in Congress, that they are taking their constitutional duty seriously to protect their turf. They're not letting Trump steamroller them. It's finally about time that Congress got concerned with protecting its constitutional turf under the separation of powers. Now, the Democrats gave up all congressional power and let Obama have it because they were so devoted, so excited, didn't want to stop Obama doing anything. But the Republicans don't want Trump to do much. This idea, after 7 years, they don't have a health care plan that can work. And Mitch McConnell, every time he opens his mouth, it gets worse. I just don't find 50 votes. I just don't see how we're going to get the... I mean, is it not obvious? They don't want to find 50 votes. They don't want to do the Trump agenda, and they're stalling it and doing everything they can to stop it and oppose it. We don't need Democrats opposing Trump. That's a given. But now, since the Politico has reported on this, you people knew it weeks before Politico does, and you didn't need me to tell you. It's that obvious. I'm sure many of you appreciated me telling you, but you didn't need me to tell you. I mean, is it not a joke that the House and Senate can't even come up with a health care bill that looks like anything voters in this country elected them to do? Tax reform? I don't see what. We just cut it over here. We can't raise it over there. I can't find. I don't know. It's insulting. But anyway, it's out there. Real resistance to Trump, the GOP Congress. In this case, as I say, the media is praising the Republicans. When's the last time Republicans in Congress, in the House of Representatives, got media praise? Can you think of it? When's the last time it happened? I can't think of it yet. It's not a trick question. Not like this. Politico, who wrote this speech? Josh Chaffetz. Just going on and on about how the Republicans are doing great. They're holding on to their turf. They're not letting Trump run all over them. This is exactly what the founders intended, this story says. When's the last time the drive-bys cited the founding fathers positively? Normally when they cite the founding fathers, they talk about as a bunch of white slave owners. Now all of a sudden they're celebrating the guys because they're Republicans. Are maintaining their strength in Congress and not letting this renegade Trump run all over it. Here's where we go back to the phones. Huntington, Long Island. This is Ron. Great to have you, sir, on the EIB network. Hello.
Hi, Rush. Thanks for taking my call.
You bet.
You started the program about D-Day and the kids today compared to the kids of that era. It just reminded me of a story. I went to Washington for a Tea Party rally, and I stopped off at a shoe store to get a pair of sneakers, and the kid that was helping me was about 19 years old, and he couldn't really comprehend the fact that he had to bring two different size pairs of sneakers out for me. So he had trouble with that. He had his hat on sideways. He had no interest in helping me.
Whoa. Hold it a minute now. Are you seriously telling me that a 19-year-old clerk at the tennis shoe store didn't know that he might have to bring more than one size out to see which one fit you?
I'm telling you, I told him 2 sizes, and he brought one out. And when I said it didn't fit, he looked disgusted. He had to go back in and get the next size. So finally he comes out with the right size. I get my sneakers. We go down to Washington. I don't know if I mentioned that, for a Tea Party rally. After the rally's over, a good friend of mine, Bobby Pearl, and I go to some sightseeing. We go to Iwo Jima Memorial. And I'm looking at these guys. They're 10,000 miles away. They're flamethrowers, bombs. They're just what they went through to put the flag up. And I'm reading the plaques, and I read the names and the ages of these guys. And it immediately reminded me of this kid in the shoe store that couldn't bring out 2 pairs of sneakers. This kid was the same age as the guys putting that flag up. And I thought to myself that this kid could never do that today. And most of the kids today can't do it. And it really, it shocked me that there's such a difference between those guys and the kids of today.
Yeah, we have to be somewhat cautious here, because not every millennial is of the stripe you're discussing here. We have plenty of them that have joined the military. We have plenty of young men and women who are warriors, who have joined the military, ostensibly, not for social reasons, but have joined the military to be part of it for what it really is. But I have the same. My fear is not so much do we have people with the physical capability or the toughness or the ability to be made tough. That's not. My fear is, do we have enough people who think the country's worth defending? And if you look at, whenever there is an act of terror, even 9/11, there's a sizable percentage of people in this country that want to blame America for it. And many of them were in the Bush State Department. Many of them were in the United States government. Many of them. When there's an act of terror in America today that has definite traces, roots to Islamic Sharia fundamentalism, we have a bunch of people that want to stand up and deny it and blame America for it. American foreign policy that's created poverty or what have you. I think anybody can be toughened up. That's the purpose of basic training. Not everybody, but back the thing that's different today from, say, World War II, when the nation rallied and unified. We think it did, but even then there were people in America who were not supportive of America. We've always had that. They were ostracized. They were silent. They were not dominant. What was dominant was, look at the factory production that went into gear to manufacture the airplanes, the tanks, the ammunition, everything needed industrially in order to fight this war after Pearl Harbor, to fight this war in Europe and in the Pacific. It took an around-the-clock effort on the part of a great percentage of all adults and many children in this country to pull this off. And the thing that unified them was a patriotic devotion to their country and a belief in the goodness of their country. And that patriotism linkage is what was partially responsible for their commitment. That's what's missing today. Now, you got to be careful, too, because the media presents an incorrect picture of everything that it reports on today, because it's actually not reporting. So it's easy, and I have to guard myself on this every time I mention this, because it's easy, based on what we see reported about snowflakes on campus and protests here and protests there, it's easy to assume that a majority or sizable chunk of young people are gone, are lost to the liberal, communist, left-leaning belief system. But we don't know that it's that widespread. It's a fear I have. I do take solace in the fact that the media doesn't get these kinds of things right. They present pictures that they want you to believe is true. But have we lost the majority of young people? Are there fewer American patriots today than there have been in the past? I don't know, but the media makes it look that way. So that's my concern is whether and here's another thing too. If we ever found ourselves under war, military conflict, it wouldn't be fought like World War II was. You wouldn't have Army Rangers rappelling up cliffs like at Ponduho. The German batteries would be targeted with laser-guided bombs and guns, and they would be fired on from far away. We wouldn't have to climb up cliffs in order to engage them. So warfare would be much different. And you have to take that into account, too. But just like we have warrior generals and we have political generals who want to climb the ranks based on political correctness and being politically appealing to commanders-in-chief of the day versus those who want to get their stars on the battlefield or the equivalent. So I just don't know. That's my concern. Nobody had any such doubt back in the 40s or 50s. Nobody had any such doubt that if we had to do this, we could do it. But today there is that doubt. And it's because there's undoubtedly been a sizable increase in the number of young people who've been taught and therefore believe that their country, America, is the problem in the world. I mean, this 25-year-old kid, young woman that leaked this document, she actually believes, she's out there saying that being white is terrorism. She's working for the National Security Agency. She's not an outlier. She's not some on-the-street, bought and paid-for protester. She's actually working for a company consulting to the NSA. She had to get some kind of a clearance. How does somebody who thinks this way get that kind of a clearance? It's scary. Back in just a second. Don't go away. Again, I don't want there to be any doubt about this, folks. I don't think the country's gone. Do not misunderstand me. And I don't think we've lost it. I think that we are still treated every day to a diet of news in the media to make us think this. I think the truth of the matter is that we have plenty of great young people who would rise to the occasion, who still believe in American exceptionalism, who still think America's great, still worth defending, and don't mind it as globalism. But I'll tell you, we have I think that they would face greater mockery and opposition than ever before in America today. Look at American patriotism is now jingoism. American greatness is made fun of. The concept of make America great again or American exceptionalism is lampooned. It is impugned. It is attacked. The effort to globalize our society and make us feel, as many of us possible, that there's nothing special about being an American, that we ought to think of ourselves as citizens of the world. And in that context, America is a problem because we have too much, we've done too much, we owe too much, blah, 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 blah. There's a rise, I don't know about but this is what college graduates, the last generation, have been taught. That's what their professors in the pop culture have attempted to teach them. I still think they are a minority, made to look like a majority, which is one of the media's great tricks. But I am nevertheless, we've always had anti-Americans, and we've always had left-wing protesters and so forth. But the means, they were always off to the left kooks. They were always oddball nutcases. Now they're not. They come across as ordinary, everyday, mainstream people. And it disgusts me is the point. It just disgusts me. It's so unfortunate, so unnecessary. Here, back to the phones. This is Tim in Sacramento, my adopted hometown. Great to have you on the program, Tim. How are you?
Good. So in this political culture that we're living in, where the leftists are constantly telling us that terrorism is the new normal, we need to just deal with it, this is the way it is. What do you think?
By the way, stop just a second. If you're, folks, the mayor of London essentially is saying just that. By the way, Tim here is not off the reservation. That's exactly what the mayor of London has suggested, and not recently. It's been a year, a couple of months. It's been significantly in the past that he said the terrorism, it's just ordinary behavior, crime. We have to learn to accommodate it and get used to it. So what's your question?
So my question is, what do you think would happen if a major A-list celebrity was killed by a terrorist?
You're talking about a movie star type or an athlete?
Something that would be more like a worldwide, star, some A-lister movie star, or just somebody that is worldwide.
Well, let's pick one.
I was told not to name names, but somebody that would be an A-list celebrity.
Well, why can't you name names?
I don't know. Ask both.
We don't want to speculate on those people dying. Is that what the thinking is? Well, you got to give me the initials. I can figure it out. Who are you thinking about here?
GC. He just had a couple babies recently. Movie star.
GC. Well,
liberal,
it's debatable whether enough people would care in that case.
See, I just wonder what the liberal left would do if their mindset would change if one of their celebrity heroes was murdered by a terrorist.
I don't know. I think they would be terribly conflicted. They would be deeply conflicted. That's all we can do is imagine that. We hope we never confront that reality. But I think they'd be conflicted all to hell. I don't think they'd know what to do. So Adnan Khashoggi has passed away. Does a name ring a bell? It doesn't. Lifestyles of the rich and famous, 1980s. Adnan Khashoggi was a Saudi arms broker who threw parties that went on for days. He was among the glitterati. Robin, whatever his name is, Robin, the guy that ran, Robin Leach loved this guy. He was on it every other week. Adnan Khashoggi, big-time partier, but he was an evil arms dealer. Anyway, he's passed away. Having more fun than a human being should be allowed to have. Rush Limbaugh, and the most listened to radio talk show in America. Great to have you here. The telephone number is 800-282-2882. The email address, lrushbo@eibnet.us. Here's the ultimate conflict situation. Let's say terrorists steal a Tesla, and they load the Tesla up with explosives, as in bombs. And then they program the thing to drive into a Tesla factory and blow up. At what point does the left condemn the terrorists? I'm telling you, they'd be conflicted as all get. You think it'd be an automatic. That would turn them against Islamic terror. No, not necessarily. It's an article of faith that militant Islam is not terror. You can't fall prey to that. In their world, that's a no-no. You never, ever go there. That's right-wing dogma to believe that. Anyway, this is kind of a theme of mine today. I go in cycles. Some days, none of this stuff bothers me. But I've been away from this microphone since last Wednesday, and I have been unable to assuage and deal with my anger. And I didn't spend a lot of time. I didn't watch any cable news. I didn't watch any, but I did stay up to speed on the news and the terror attack. And I followed the reaction to Trump pulling out of the Paris Agreement. And I saw Hillary, and some days the stupidity on the left really bothers me. Some days I laugh at it and I'm able to ignore it and not be concerned by it. But some days it affects me, and today is one of those days. Anyway, I've dwelt on that enough. How do I think? Jeez. Mr. Snerdley asking the following question: how do you think generals like George Patton would deal with soldiers who want to cross-dress and have sex change operations? I think Patton, if in this day and age, would not be a general. He wouldn't be able to rise that high. He would have said or done something in a lower rank to get himself thrown out of the military. He would not have even gotten to be 4 stars where he could do something about this. I mean, that's the difference. Funny, interesting question, though. I want to go some of the audio sound bites that we have today. I said that we're going to mix things up, some things that happened while I was gone that I do want to comment on, that I'm sure you want to hear my comments on, and things that are happening of the moment. And even when I'm gone, I am still front and center in the drive-by media. Last night, CNN Situation Room, Wolf Blitzer speaking with the politics editor-at-large, Chris Cillizza. Now, Cillizza used to be the Washington Post, but like many print journalists, wants the FaceTime, wants to be on TV because there's bigger money there, even at CNN, and there's fame. And so I'm sure there are other reasons that Cillizza went over there as well. Blitzer says the last 48 hours, the president has gone after the mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, following the Saturday terror attack. Trump has blamed his own Justice Department for his revised travel ban that he personally signed. What are these actions by President Trump, these tweets, what do they tell you about this president of the United States, Chris?
He's sort of the anti-president. So we always thought of presidentialists, you wait, in a situation like London, you wait until all the facts are known, you offer condolences, you say whatever we can do, and that's about it. He is more Rush Limbaugh as it relates to this stuff, conservative talk radio, than he is anything like we would call presidential. And I say we shouldn't be surprised because saying that he liked his war heroes not captured during the campaign, getting in a fight with a Gold Star family, saying that Ted Cruz's dad may have been involved in the JFK assassination. He is not someone who is reserved, who awaits judgment, and for all the people who thought, well, when he's president, things will be different, I think we should probably give up that idea.
Give up so you admit you're trying to shape Trump into what you think is presidential, but you're going to fail because he's more Rush Limbaugh than he is presidential. Now, here's what this means. Go back to what he said at the beginning of the debate. We always thought of presidential as you wait in a situation like London. You wait until all the facts are known. You offer condolences. You say whatever we can do to help you out. And that's about it. Is that what do you think other presidents? So London gets hit again, as they have been hit over and over. Take your pick. What do you think Bill Clinton would do? What do you think George W. Bush would do? What do you think Obama would do? I mean, all three of these, I would assume that Saliza and the people at CNN believe acted presidentially. So what did they do? Did they not involve themselves? Did they stay distant? Did they offer any kind of moral support? Did they make phone calls, anything we can do, what have you? Did they bide their time and send? Now, when London gets hit, and it's not the first time, after the mayor has told people, you're just going to have to get used to this, so they get hit again, and Trump, who has made a campaign agenda out of stopping this stuff and keeping it from happening in America, goes on the warpath to criticize the mayor of London. And these people are just apoplectic. The political class does not do this to each other in times of terror conflict or military conflict. But Trump is not one of them. He never has been one of them. He doesn't come from the cookie-cutter school of presidents. And they just can't get their arms around it. They cannot understand it. And as such, they have to find ways to condemn it. Yet Trump's fans are all supportive. Trump's fans are people fed up with doing nothing about it and offering only condolences and no condemnation. This stuff deserves condemnation. Nobody in the world will condemn it. Nobody will condemn militant Islamic terrorism. Everybody wants to excuse it. Everybody wants to misidentify it. Everybody wants to limit it or to mischaracterize it as no big deal. And Donald Trump sees it an entirely different way, and he doesn't want these kinds of attacks occurring here. And he's going out of his way, he's doing everything he can to try to protect this country, its borders, and its people. That's what his voters think. And yet he is considered a greater enemy than these three terrorists in the UK. He is considered a greater enemy than all of the terrorists in the world, according to the American left and most in the American media. It's really striking when you think of it this way, that Donald Trump, who hasn't blown up anything, who hasn't threatened anybody with being blown up, who does not tell people who do not agree with him that they must die, Donald Trump is the problem. Donald Trump is who must go. When terrorists attack wherever they attack, you're not supposed to say a thing. That equals backlash. I think this is actually stunning what is happening here. One guy has made it plain that he considers it his job to prevent these kinds of attacks in the United States. So he has wanted travel bans. He's wanted to increase the vetting of refugees. He's wanted to close the border or put a wall up to more be readily able to identify who is getting in, so as to limit the possibility and the percentage of these kind of attacks against innocent Americans. And he becomes the problem. He becomes the guy we have to get rid of. He becomes the guy who's shaking everything up. And the actual perpetrators of these crimes and their sympathizers are excused. Or worse, we're told that we must take time to understand them, that we must dig deep to understand their rage. And it's always, what did we do to make them so mad? What have we done to create such hatred in these people? What can we do to show them that we hold no ill feelings for them? The guy who properly identifies them, the guy who says he wants to do anything and everything to prevent them from succeeding in these attacks here, is the guy we don't understand, is the guy who doesn't fit the presidential mold, is the guy who's crazy, kooky, is the guy we have to get rid of. Trump's voters haven't changed their mind on him on these kinds of things. One more bite here. This is, you remember Crystal Ball? You know why she became famous? Do you remember why? Well, it's not why, but one of the contributing characteristics to her fame. She was one of the first millennials to have posted nude photos of herself on social media, who then ran for office, and the photos got leaked, and she got mad that they got leaked. And we here at the EIB Network said, hey, you live by the nude photo, you die by the nude photo. And we're, you young millennials are posting all this stuff so everybody get to know every nook and cranny of you on social media. You're not going to have any sympathy when you start blaming other people invading your privacy. So she came out and attacked me as being unsympathetic and insensitive and having no soul and that kind of. Anyway, she ran for office somewhere. I don't know if it was local or if it was ran for Congress, but she lost. Then she went away. I don't know what happened to her. But now she's back. And she was on C-SPAN this morning, the Washington Journal, Democrat strategist and People's House Project founder Crystal Ball, spelled with a K. So she started a think tank. I guess that's what the People's House Project is. And she's a Democrat strategist. We don't know who she strategized for. Most of these people you see as Republican or Democrat strategists on TV have never strategized a damn thing with anybody. It's just what cable news calls them to make them look official. All they are is a bunch of opinionated nerds. And you attach the label analyst or strategist, and it makes you think, wow, who'd they campaign with? They advised maybe John Kerry. They strategized with who? Trump, maybe? What? No. Nobody. So the host of the show, that doesn't say who the host is, they take a call from Ed in Texas talking to Crystal Ball. He says, you have guys like Rush Limbaugh who got on the radio and told everybody how bad the Democrats are, and he made it very clear that the country needs a lot more hate, and so Limbaugh started a hate campaign. Let me ask you this. Those of you who have been loyal, devoted, lovable listeners for 30 years, you don't associate this program with hate. You never have. This program is fun, it's enlightening, it's informative, whatever, but it is not hate. It never has been hate. Don't hate anything or anybody. And you know it because you regularly listen. But when the left doesn't understand something, or when they disagree with something, or when they're outclassed, or when they are defeated, they always chalk it up to hate. They are the largest hate group. So anyway, his question, so you get guys like Rush Limbaugh came along, we owned it. There was nobody. And then Limbaugh comes along, got on the radio, told everybody how bad the Democrats are, made it very clear that the country needs a lot more hate, and he started a hate campaign. That's the caller's comment. Here's Crystal Ball reacting.
To the point of the Rush Limbaugh piece, I don't know whether the population became divided and then the media fed into that, or whether the media was divided and then that split the population apart. But I think it's very hard for us to even have a unified narrative of what's happening in the country and what's fact and what's fiction, because we do have these partisan media outlets. The thing that the country really needs is more love for our neighbor, is more love for the person who lives in the state where we don't live, for the person who's struggling in a city or in a small town, a place that we may never even visit.
Right, okay, so we got a chicken and egg argument here. And the chicken or egg argument is, did the people divide and that caused the division, or did the media cause the people to divide? That's her question. Population became divided and the media fed that, or whether the media was... That's not what happened at all. What happened was that there has never been a nonpartisan media. The idea that we need a unified narrative, That's journalism 101, and that's bad. Narrative is a substitute for news. A narrative is a story. And for the longest time, only one mindset constructed all the stories. The left. Until this program came along in 1988. And this program busted up the left's ability to have a single narrative every damn day, which they had for years, decades before this program came along. All that happened was the American people, by the millions, who rejected the Cronkites and the Edward R. Murrows and the take your pick of the newscasters of the day. There are plenty of people that didn't like them, didn't buy into it. They had no outlet. So they were never known. They were never heard. This program comes along and that all changes. And that's why people think, wow, we were unified. We had a singular narrative every day. And then it all blew up. And they've never been able to put it back together. And they've always sought blame. And the blame is always, I could not have had a chance at succeeding if I and you all lived with an honest media. Pure and simple, folks. This program wouldn't have had a prayer if the media was what they've always claimed to be, but they never have been, objective. Jump back to the phones. William in Houston, great to have you on my first day back in a couple, 3 days. Great to have you. What's up, William?
Thanks, Rush. Make a ditto since 1990. I'd like to say that I have a saying that I've been saying for quite some time to people, and it's every time these people do these things like change the bathroom laws and stuff, I always look at them and say, well, you know, Hitler would have a field day. And concerning your 1944 D-Day, I honestly believe what you said earlier. I don't think we would be able to repel an invasion right now with these people. And I just feel that your point is right on. What do you think about that?
Well, it's tough, again, because the point needs to be made that the kind of warfare we fought in World War II is thankfully not the kind of warfare that would be dominant in the future. Not to overdo the example, but an invasion of 500,000 on the shores of another country, such as we did it in Normandy, Operation D-Day and so forth, not so much necessary with the kind of armaments that we have today. So you're still going to need an army. You still need boots on the ground to conquer and liberate actual territory. But you know, I'm not comfortable with a Hitler of today. It's risky to start taking historical aspects and planting them into contemporary times and try to mix apples and oranges. But the point still survives. As I said earlier, my concern, fear, whatever it is I don't know that we have anywhere near a sense of unity in our country about the goodness of our country. And about the crystal ball. We know we need to be a single narrative. We need to all come together and learn to love people in one state, whether they're in that state or not. And if you want to assign specific meaning to what she's saying, do we have the ability to come together under one narrative, and that narrative is America is worth defending? I read a lot, folks. I'm not getting this from what I'm seeing on cable TV. That's just rot gut. But I read voluminously. And the amount of anti-American dribble, and I don't mean communist anti-American, just young people who think this country is fraudulent, that the country is flawed, and it has been since its founding, that it needs to be perfected and can't be. Readily accept the idea that America is destroying the planet with our lifestyle. So I don't know about unity in that case. A man, a legend, a way of life. Here is Rebecca in Byfield, Massachusetts. I'm glad you waited. Welcome to the program.
Hi, sir. I'm extremely nervous, so I'll try not to talk too fast for you. I've been listening since I met my husband, Christopher, back in 2003, and we're now raising 2 Rush babies. And he works for IT and does a lot of networking. He's an engineer, and it drives him crazy. We were watching the news last night, and we saw the reports of this bombshell with the reality winner girl.
Yeah.
And he said, this is just ridiculous because people don't understand. We don't have a system that networks all of the voting machines together, because if that was true, we wouldn't have to wait for the precincts to send them all in at the end. We would know instantly who won, like right as the polls closed, because it would be all scanned together and networked together. And he says that people just don't seem to understand how computers work in that sense, so they assume that the whole system's connected where it's not. And it just rattles our bones, because I'm sure everybody right now in Massachusetts, because that's where I am, is believing all of this and just, taking it hook, line, and sinker, and we're just shaking our heads at the news. So I just wanted to bring that up to your listeners.
Did you say your husband or your fiance?
My husband. He's been married for 8 years now, yes.
Okay, so he's an IT specialist, so you and he know. You're exactly right. If these systems, if every state and every precinct in every state, if they were linked to where you could get into them and hack them, and they're not. Many of these systems are not even connected to the Internet.
Exactly.
They're not hackable in that regard. That's why this story is so bogus. But it feeds the narrative. The narrative has been out there for a year. You really can't blame low information voters, Rebecca, for falling for this. They don't know. They believe what they see in the media. And the media is telling them that Trump hijacked the election, that the Russians stole the election, they hacked it. And so here comes this leak, which claims, this document claims that the Russians were trying to get into certain states' voter registration files. Nothing to do with actual election night stuff, just voter registration files. But we don't even know if that's true. If this is true, why the fact that this document is been sitting away, hidden away, that nobody's used it up to now, tells me it's worthless. In practical application, there's nothing to it. But used at this time, thrown out there as a Hail Mary, right before Comey is slated to testify on Thursday, right here when the Democrats are pulling their hair out, claiming nobody can find any evidence, voila! It's all too pat.
And also, once there's other terrorist attacks, they're trying to, I think, take away from the focus on the terrorist attacks that are awful and try to then keep focusing on Trump and, obviously the Russia narrative and things like that. They're trying to divert us.
Well, I am so happy that you see through this. We need more people able to, and there probably are more people who do than we have confidence in believing. But, folks, she is exactly right. But there's one other thing I want to make about this so-called hacked or stolen document from Freedom Serenity. What is her name? Right, Reality Winner. Again, I think it's a big deal. This document's been around for who knows how long. It's been at this consulting company. It's been in there. They've had access to it for months and months and months. Why hasn't somebody else leaked this? You telling me this document would not have helped last August? You telling me this document wouldn't, even in November, late November, December, can you imagine the hassle this document could have caused if they had released this during the transition? That's when they were looking for this so-called evidence. But even you read the Intercept website story, and I defy you to come out of that not lost in the weeds. I defy you. I can read this stuff. I can read the stitches on a fastball. I can find my way through intricately woven webs of deceit. And I read this thing, and I came out, I felt like I needed to spray myself with insect repellent before I went in there. You are so in the weeds on this stuff. It says, it's a lot of words that don't say anything really substantive. It just looks like it does. The headline and the name of the website, The Intercept, and then you've got this woman who supposedly speaks languages, 3 languages. It's one language with 3 dialects. The media is trying to make her look like she's really greatly, profoundly educated, worldly, and sophisticated. But to me, it's just all too pat. At the end of the day, which I know is a tired and worn-out phrase, even after this document today, after it's been released, after it's been finding its way through the intricately woven web of media deceit, we still do not have an allegation with evidence behind it that the Russians hacked the election. Because they couldn't have. Because they didn't. But it doesn't matter. Because it's going to continue. Because the left's purpose now is to delegitimize Trump and to paralyze the Republicans so that they do not help advance the Trump agenda. That is really what all of this has become about. Larry in Charlotte, North Carolina, great to have you here. How are you doing, sir?
Good, Brush. How you doing?
Very well. Glad you called.
First, I want to thank you for that little fact check on Al Gore. That was on my list of things to do. I knew there had to be something behind that one.
You mean his appearance on TV or his stuff about the fish swimming in the streets of Honolulu and Miami?
Swimming in the streets.
It's a crock. It's an absolute crock. But see, people believe it. I will read about that on my tech blogs. I will read it. I have read it. And they're genuinely scared, and they say, see, and they don't understand why deniers like me don't see the truth when the fish are swimming in the streets in Miami.
Yeah, it's insane what they do. Second of all, Rush, I'm disappointed that you think that what we're seeing in the mainstream media about the snowflakes and the generational problem is widespread. You're the one that's always saying, boy, don't believe what they're showing you. They're showing you what they want you to see. I have to remind my wife of that all the time when we're watching that stuff. Boy,
I have issued caveats all day long because I realized I might have misspoken when I first made this point in the first hour. What I said was that if all you do is watch the media, you'll probably be convinced that we don't have a significant portion of young people who would answer the call to defend the country because they don't believe the country needs to be defended. And then later... But I amended that.
That's exactly what I was referring to, because before that you said, boy, I hope that this isn't what it's like out there and that this is a typical media thing, and you were doubting yourself.
I was doubting myself.
I remember that.
I never doubt myself. What do you mean I was doubting myself?
Well, you were doubting that it was just the mainstream media. But let me tell you.
Well, that's doubting them. That's not doubting me. What I have said to wrap this up is that my concern is not that we don't have the toughness because we could make that. My concern is that we do not have and would not have a singular case of rallying around America if we were similarly attacked today, because we have too many people, young people, and CEOs, for the hell of it, who have been convinced that we're the problem in the world, that we deserve a comeuppance here and there. I don't know how widespread it concerns me.
And I think it's just a lot of them trying to brainwash all of us, the media trying to brainwash all. You know, I'm from Western PA, and I now reside in Charlotte, but people I know in Western PA, they think the way I do, which is conservative.
Right.
People in the area that I'm in Charlotte think conservative. I lived in New Jersey for a while. My
I know
wife
you're
is from there.
Look, there's actual empirical evidence to back up what you say, and that is we still don't need a draft because there are still plenty of people volunteering. We have an all-volunteer force, and we don't have a shortage. So I don't doubt that we have a hardcore greatness among the young of America, including the millennial generation. But it's not like it was in World War II, not back in the 40s. Nothing ever is. I understand that. I guess, it's just what's different today, to a degree anyway, from when I was growing up, is there now seems to be a coordinated, from academia to the media to pop culture, a coordinated effort to corrupt as many minds as possible on the concept of the greatness and decency of America. It is an actual concerted effort. It's taking place in movies and books and television shows and on college campus. I know some of you say, it always has, Rush. Well, when I went, I know it has. Maybe the percentages are no different than they've always been. Maybe it's just with the advent of the internet, you can access more of the people who think this than you were able to in the past. But do not doubt one thing out there, Larry, and that is this. I have not lost faith in the country. This last election demonstrates it would be folly to lose faith in the country. And don't count me among those who have. I would never say so even if I thought it was. I did not get to some of the soundbites I wanted to get to today. The Hillary Clinton montage and all the people responsible for her loss. So I just ordered that to be saved and put in the roster for tomorrow. There's some stuff, too, that and there's going to be mountains of stuff happening between now and then. But I'm so happy to be back, folks. It's great to be with you. And I look forward to next time, which is just 21 hours from now. So, as always, thank you so much for being here, and see you tomorrow.